Alright, so for this week we're going to go over part 3 of this new unit, solving quadratic equations part 3. Let's see here. We're going to be going over the solutions of a quadratic equation using the square roots. So now we're going to go back into kind of looking at these vocab words. So we know the solution is when we're solving for a graph, and what that looks like on a graph is if we have a quadratic equation, the solutions are going to be the x-intercepts. Now, the x-intercept is when y is equal to 0, but now we're going to be solving these equations by square rooting, so we can use the root function, and that's how you can kind of look at that word, root. So now what we're going to do is we'll kind of remind ourselves about how we solve using square roots. So we square and square root things as opposite operations that cancel each other out. So when we square root something, we have to understand that there's both a positive and negative square root. So the example is 5 times 5 is 25 and negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. So the 12 perfect squares that we see and recognize are going to be hints throughout this time when we're working with quadratics. That's going to give you a hint where you guys can square root something. So last week we did the first 3 examples, and we actually did the last 2 similarly as well. We are going to be solving these examples once again by square rooting, which will be the lesson/classwork for today, and then followed by an activity on Khan Academy where you will be solving 4 different problems. So here we are going to solve this equation. So first we have to get x by itself. Now how we do that is, let's see if we can pick a different color. In order to get x by itself, I have to get rid of this 25. So by canceling out negative 25, we can add on both sides. So those will cancel out. So our new equation will be x squared is equal to 25. Once our x squared is by itself, we can then square root both sides. So here's the square root, here's the square root. And then we are left with the square root of x is just x. Now, the square root of 25 isn't just positive 5, but a negative 5 as well. So you can put positive negative 5, or you can write x is equal to negative 5 and positive 5. And here's the work. Now what we're going to do is we are going to solve this equation. So the first step is we still have to undo the square root. And you're going to see that x and the square term is by itself. There's nothing else other than the square term on the left side, so there's nothing else that we can do. So we can square root both sides, and then we're left with everything under the square root, which is x minus 2, is equal to 49 squared, or the square root of 49, which is both plus and minus 7. Now what we have to do is solve both equations for x. So we have to have 2 equations. We have to have x minus 2 is equal to 7, and x minus 2 is equal to a negative 7. Now, for both of these equations, we have to cancel out the 2, which we have to add on both sides. And that's going to give me x is equal to 9. And on this question, it's going to be x is equal to negative 5. So there are 2 answers. Now, take some time to think about what you notice about these answers. Jot down some thoughts. So here's the work written out. And some things that you can say, or one thing that I'm looking for, is that they are not opposite. But I'll also review your work to see what else you thought about it. Remember, opposites would be positive 5, negative 5, but in this case, you have completely different numbers, positive 9 and a negative 5. And real fast, let's take a moment to see what this looks like. If we were to draw this graph, we draw it like this, then negative 5 would be here, and positive 9 would be here. So we don't know in really clear information on whether it's going to be opening up or opening down, but we do know that this is where my two roots or my x-intercepts will be. Now, last but not least, we have another example. So for right here, we have two, you notice that there's a y included. Now, at first we didn't have a y, but now that we have all of our constants on one side and our variables, it's all a y. Now, we know that y is equal to 0, very important because that is what we're solving for when y is equal to 0. So we set y is equal to 0 right there. Now, what we're going to do is in a different color, we're going to get the x squared term by itself, so we can get rid of the 16. We're going to add 16 on one side, add it here. And you'll have that 16 is equal to x plus 4, that quantity squared. Now, once we're done with this, we can undo the square root by taking, or undo the squaring by taking a square root. So we're going to square root both sides. And what does that equal? It equals plus and minus, so it's going to be equal to a positive and a negative 4, x plus 4. And here, this is where we can make two equations. So I'm going to do it here. 4 is equal to x plus 4. And then I'm going to put negative 4 is equal to x plus 4. In both these equations, I must subtract 4 to cancel it out. So this first equation on the left, you are getting 0 is equal to x, and then the equation on the right, you're getting negative 8 equal to x. So pretty quick, pretty simple. And when you draw that on a graph, what will that look like? An x-intercept at 0 and an x-intercept at negative 8. Now, once again, what do you notice about these answers? Take a moment to jot that down. Again, they are not opposite, and here you're able to review kind of the work that I have shown so you can follow along with yourself. Now, make sure that you go to the Khan Academy assignment on Google Classroom and get a passing score. This is to get 3 out of the 4 questions correct. If you are not able to do that, send me a message and I will try to see if I can retake it for you or reset it for you. All right, well, see you in class.